Hey everyone, this is Greg, your lead course facilitator, and welcome to Module 3's weekly roundup. So this week was really about prioritizing system risk and understanding what systems your organization can live without and for how long. Prioritization is really important because not just you need to understand what you're spending resources on, but also because you need to use the time to actually understand what matters to your organization. It is a really great opportunity to kind of reflect back on what is core to your business and how you're trying to plan for disaster, but also how you're trying to plan generally from a fiscal alignment perspective. And oftentimes you'll notice that certain parts of the business that actually gets quite a bit of attention from a resourcing standpoint, from headcount, or from a cost center perspective, that might be a good way of thinking of how to align some cyber risks to them. Because if you're spending a lot of money on it, it may indicate that it's pretty critical to your business. However, this is definitely not the way you should always think about it, because there are always exceptions to that. And this is one of the reasons why organizations have a really tough time figuring out budget to allocate for cyber risk. Because even though certain components of their business are prioritized, from a cyber risk standpoint, it's not something you usually spend money on. So there's no real answers for that. But anyway, really great exercise this past week to try and think through what can you live without and what do you need in order to actually have an organization that's operating. The small group discussion this week, the question was discuss the maximum downtime your organization can afford to have critical systems offline. Also, what types of backups do you have in place in case of a cyber attack? And so on the small group discussion forum, I saw that many of you were talking about their sector's critical systems and the amount of time they can afford to be offline. An interesting tidbit is that many industrial systems should never be taken offline. And if they are, the entire operation can't run without the part. Some parts, though, if they're corrupted, can take months and months to replace. Think about this for specifically cyber-physical attacks. This is something that I was studying a little while ago. A VFD, a variable field drive. These are part of cogen plants or electric infrastructure. And I know back at MIT, we have one, and we asked the manufacturer how long it takes to make if someone were to corrupt this system. And they said it is only manufactured in one plant in Germany, and it can take about 9 months to get built, and then take another couple months to get shipped on a ship over to Cambridge, Massachusetts. So, some of these parts are pretty hard to get, and they're pretty critical to an organization's existence. So a cyber physical attack can very quickly take down these systems, and you probably would want to prioritize that system to defend. Another thing that came up, but I want to speak a little bit more to, is the notion of backups. Now, when you prioritize your systems and to minimize your downtime, you might say, okay, well, I'm just going to have a bunch of backups ready on call for when something goes bad. And that's a good strategy, right? You should definitely back up your systems. However, the reality is that backups don't occur. You can't just back something up like this in terms of you can't bring it back online really quickly. It doesn't work like that. There were a number of instances where I know for one, when the city of Atlanta was compromised by ransomware, they did have backups available, but they're still recovering from some of these attacks because it takes a long time to actually recover all these systems, even if you have the backups ready, because sometimes they're on disks that are somewhere that you have to go find. Sometimes even if you have everything stored in the cloud and you have a backup in the cloud somewhere, you still have to re-provision and re-customize those systems or reconfigure things. It can take days, but it can even take months to bring everything back, even if you didn't lose any data. So backups are great, but they don't always fix the speed to recovery problem. And it's something to consider when you're dealing with backup systems. So this week in the class-wide discussion forum, I really enjoyed reading the cybersecurity in the news as always. Two posts of your colleagues really stuck out at me. The first one was about how you may interact with boards and C-suites about cyber questions and their extent of their knowledge about these issues. And the reason why this resonated is because one thing that I've learned in all my research is that while you have pretty significant involvement from the CIO or the CISO and the security team when it comes to security, the CEO, the COO, board members don't know what the heck is going on for the most part. And what they do is they ask the CISO for some bullet points or some memo about what the current state is of their security, and they run with it. And they tell the media that, and it's just that there's stock messaging that's given to them, but they don't actually understand the problems. And this is a huge gap in organizations because those who ultimately make decisions on budget or prioritize assets or even messaging to shareholders is very difficult to do unless you actually have real information. And these people who are at the very top of organizations often don't have full information, and even if they were provided full information, that's not something that they feel like they have they don't worry about it as much as other people in the organizations do, like the security team, for example. So it shows that there's this gap, right, between knowledge of the folks who are operationally focused on security and leadership. And we really need to start breaking that down a little bit better. And there are a number of initiatives out there today to try and do so. And I think whoever posted this, there were several participants that posted really good material on boards and C-suites this week. And one of the posts was on Davos in the World Economic Forum, where you have all of these C-suite folks and the board members, the fancy people. They go to Switzerland and they talk about big issues. And cybersecurity is definitely on top of the agenda. But if you prod them a little bit, they probably don't know all that much that's going on in their organization. And we need to start breaking down that barrier a little bit. Another piece of news that caught my attention was the media's portrayal of cyber attacks. This is not a trivial issue. Whenever you see a cyber attack in the news, it's generally sensationalized, usually in terms of numbers, like this number of people attacked or this amount of data breached or whatever. It doesn't really help drive awareness in big ways because those numbers are sterile. They don't actually have real implications for readers. And we need to start describing cyber attacks in terms of actual business impact. And I think that this module 3, really started to help you understand how you actually relate an attack back to what is absolutely critical for your business. So when we start, as the media portrays this, we need to help educate them as well that cyber attacks need to be portrayed in terms of business impact, not in terms of just sensationalized, oh, there were 1.5 million user accounts hacked. Like, that doesn't really tell us that much, other than the fact that data that was stolen is going to be put on the black market, but that data was probably already on the black market because many companies have already been hacked before. So interesting points that we really want to focus on, not necessarily core to the material that we've talked about this week, but on the fringe, really brings us to real life problems that hopefully you are all going to go solve, being armed with this material. So aside from some of the core material this week, we want to make you aware that this week you're going to be signing up for your live sessions. Some of you may have different preferences for time, so I think just try and get signed up whenever you can. Live sessions are the greatest part of this class, in my opinion, and many of your tutors' opinions. It's a really cool opportunity to be able to engage with each other in terms of speaking with your colleagues, but also your tutors and I are really excited to be part of those live sessions as well. We learn a lot from each other, and it's just a really fun interaction opportunity. And there's 2 of them for the class, so this is this is the first trial one essentially for you, whereas it's optional and the second one is required. So some key takeaways from this module, for module 3, are understanding the critical systems, networks, and data organizations can rely on for continued business operations, and for you to be able to identify these critical assets in your own organizations. So I think thus far it seems that you all have a really good grasp of this, and I'm really excited about how amazingly engaged you are on the forums with each other. I think the best part of this class is really learning from your colleagues. So keep it up. Keep up the great work, and I'll see you on those forums for Module 4. All right, talk to you soon.